My name is Marin Todorov, and I work for two great teams. One is Realm. It is a replacement for what we use so far for storage on the mobile, and on iPhone and Android and so forth. And another great team, the Rönnqvist.com team. So if you're doing anything with iOS, you probably have been on this website. And I've been doing this for a long time. Joined Realm fairly recently, but creating tutorials for Rönnqvist.com was a really long time that I do that, and I've done a lot of interesting things. I was interested in doing libraries for a long time because they save time for people, they save development time, they save trouble, and they're really great because a lot of people test them on the internet, and they when you use these dependencies, you get code that is really thoroughly tested. Some people say, okay, I may code this library myself. Yeah, but you can't test it as good as hundreds of thousands of people, right? So there's a lot of benefit in using libraries, and I really like doing that. And so my first Objective-C library is called JSON Model. I committed on the first version, the initial commit, on the December 2nd, 2012. And so it was just me in my room with a couple of beers, and I was like, all right, I'm going to save so much time to everyone because I have this great idea. And then I opened an empty Xcode project, which was basically, like a blank file, and started adding code. And then I added code, and and it looked great, and I pushed to GitHub, and a lot of people came in and said, no, that's not great code. So, yeah, but it wasn't great code. It was just me in my room with a couple of beers. I mean, how good could it be? Well, it wasn't bad per se, but when we joined forces and we've actually formed a community around this library, only then it really became great. And only when a lot of people tested it and contributed and so far, only this made it great. And so this is why I really like dealing with libraries and creating libraries, to save people time, to give them the code and to share the love and so forth and so forth. And right now, this one is 1.2, and it's still Objective-C. Boo. But actually, maybe partially because it's an Objective-C, you can see this if you go to the JSON model page on CocoaPods. The stats for this library. This is insane for me. It's been 3.5 years, and there's over 16,000 apps that use this library. It's crazy, and and so it's a very long way. It's 3.5 years, but it's really strange that something that you start on your own with a blank file in your room can be everywhere. It could save so much development time, can help so many people. And JSON model is very special because it really makes sense. It's something that I loved using when I was writing Objective-C apps. And when I did this myself, I knew that other people will love it too as well. And this was really great. And so when Swift came, I was, yes, I can write new libraries in a new language and do even more magic. And there was a whole new wave of things that were exciting and people were crazy about. Like that Swift is so pure. You don't have to subclass from NS object, right? So you don't have to have these other methods that you don't necessarily write yourself. And properties, who needs properties? We have basically variables and structs and things like this. And for whatever reason, pointers became bad, and we wanted values. And but when the Swift came out, I really felt excited about this. So I thought, well, let me rewrite JSON model in Swift. That would be a good idea. Yeah, well, turns out that it wasn't all that easy because Objective-C and Swift are just different languages, and they work differently. So you can't really do exactly the same things that you do in Objective-C and Swift. Now, to be fair, JSON Model is a rather advanced library that pushes you into places where people don't normally go. But so it's a little bit more advanced than most probably, or than the average. But still, Swift just can't do what JSON Model does. And that's why there's such a plethora of Swift JSON frameworks, because there's not such a great way to do that at all. And actually, if we compare this, so with Objective-C and JSON Model, you would have an interface file like this. You'll just say, my model is going to be called like that, and I'm going to use this and this kind of properties with this and this types, and so forth. And that's it. Actually, you don't need an implementation file. So this will be your H file and no M file. I mean, an empty M file. And then JSON Model will introspect this class, see the types you expect and how they're called, and it will introspect the JSON that you're passing in, and will do all the matching and all the conversions and things like this automatically, thanks to the Objective-C runtime. So it almost feels magical, but it's not really magical. It's just the Objective-C runtime that allows you to do a lot of good things, a lot of advanced things. And there's a clear path of ifs and else's and switches and things like this that are being followed. And then on the other side, we have Swift Star or Swift whatever, all of these Swift libraries, in which instead of declaring what you want to have, you have to write how do you want to get it. So not the what, but the how. Guard this and guard that and guard this other thing and so forth. And then, oh yeah, if the type that I'm getting is a string and I expect an int, this, and then blah, blah. All of these things that JSON Model does automatically, you have to kind of like spell out for your Swift models. Now, I'm not saying that the Swift libraries aren't great. They are great. They just do it in a different way, and I like the other way better. So, so this was my first lesson. This was something that I realized, that these are different languages, and they have different context as well, and they can do different things. And so Swift is great, right? Because we have it on the iOS, we have it on OS X, we have it on the TV, on the watch, and of course now we have it on Linux. And people often tell me, yeah, no, we aren't going to ship a feature because we cannot port it to Linux. To which I say, why do you care about Linux right now? It is good if you're experimenting with something concretely and precisely for Linux. But if you're writing a multi-platform library, or if you're writing an iOS library or so, not shipping features because down the road there might be a portability problem is just a nonsense. Really, ship the amazing features now. Ship the magic right now and the love, and then 2 years down the road, worry about Linux. Maybe things will be solved by then, and everything will work automatically, maybe not. But waiting on compatibility to work is just, holding yourself on just shipping great stuff. And so I bailed on porting JSON Model to Swift because I just didn't want to do it in the way that Swift allows me to. But I created a different library then later on, which is called Easy Animation. And it's not as popular as my other libraries, it just has 1,800 stars on GitHub. So, I mean, it's not really a big success, but it's really nice. And actually, it's a Swift library for iOS. And after my realization with JSON Model, I thought, okay, so if it's a Swift library for iOS, then let me use everything that iOS gives me to make this library magical. I don't have to hold on using everything that is there just because it's Swift now, right? So everything that I used from Objective-C, I actually can use from Swift too. And I did. So this talk is more about what was my motivation to write this library, how did I do it, how does it look like, and how did I feel in the end about it. Okay. So the story behind it is, how it starts is that last year I worked on this book called iOS Animation by Tutorials. And it has about 20 plus chapters in which the people can follow through and work on projects, different projects that exhibit different animations. So now people can try different things in different contexts and learn about animations. And what I had to do is, before sitting and writing text, I had to basically develop many different projects, many different apps that create many different animations. So I have this huge pool of examples, and then I will pull some of those and turn them into chapters and order them in the proper order. And so I started with 5 projects with views and 9 with layers and 1 with Facebook Pop. And so turning through the examples with the view animations was really good. It was really fast. I could do everything quite quickly because, hey, it's just, you can put it on one line even if you're really into that. And so it's really easy. If you have view animate with duration, give the duration, delay options. And then there's this magical closure where we just set the final values of what you want to animate. And then UIKit takes care to see what the current values are, animate to those final values that you want to have with the proper timing and the proper delays and stuff like that. And you can just supply another closure that will run when all of this finishes. Really easy. So I was creating many projects. It was all fun and great stuff. And then I get to the layer animations part. So the same animation here translates to this with core animation. So, like experimenting and creating a multitude of examples was not that easy at all compared to the UIKit API. I'm not saying core animation is not great. It is great. This is still amazingly short code to create an animation compared to many other platforms. But the thing is that we have UIKit already, so this one feels a bit... and it's exactly the same animation. It is exactly the same result that you get with this compared to the top. So I thought, how would I improve the built-in iOS animation APIs? So my goal was to create a library for iOS, and therefore I could use the Objective-C runtime as much as I want. I can use everything that the UIKit gives me. I can use core animation. So basically, everything that I've been using so far, there was no reason to restrain myself not to use it, again, just from Swift. All the syntax is a little bit different, and I had to go places, but other than that, it was pretty good. And so I sat down, wrote on a piece of paper 3 goals that I wanted to achieve with this library. Easier layer animations, and easier animation sequences, and layer spring animations, because at the time iOS 8 was the current OS version, and there was no layer spring animations built in. Okay, there were, still the API was not public, so people could not use it. And I started with a great post by David Rönnqvist, who gets mad props for being the animation guru. So he had a very good write-up of how a layer and a view play together, basically. So anytime you drag anything from Interface Builder to your view controller, and something shows up on your view controller, basically, in Interface Builder, and you run that, there is probably some kind of view, a label or an image or so forth. And this view then has basically a team buddy, which is the layer that is responsible for drawing everything that the view shows on screen. But also the layer has a delegate, which basically tells it what to do, how to do its work. And this delegate is actually the view. So they have this simple relationship that is kind of they're like this little team of 2, and they constantly talk to each other and so forth. And this article talks about this at large, which I don't want to repeat in here, but his post gave me some ideas. I was like, okay, UIKit already does everything for me. All these classes are in place, and everything is there, and it looks like it's very easy to just jump in and change stuff to work the way I want them to. So I did. So my idea was to get animate with duration and hijack the closure. And and so in the beginning of the closure, I will open this context, this struct that I have. I will run the user's original closure with all the animations they have, and then close my context. And in the context, I will just actually track all changes to all properties on views or layers the user does in their block. And the thing is, if they change any property on a view, UIKit will animate this automatically. But if you change something on a layer, UIKit will not animate this automatically. But I will animate it automatically at the bottom. So what Apple is not doing for you automatically, I just added it at the bottom of this execution. And there's very many details that I want to go into. But as I said, if you change a property on your view, then UIKit creates an animation for you. If you change a property on a layer that is wired directly to a property on a view, then also UIKit gets animation for you. The only problem is with things like corner radius or shade or shadow opacity and things like this. But long story short, swizzle all the methods. That's how it is. Yes, that's what it all boils down to. And at first, I was a little bit hesitant about it. I was, swizzle all the methods. And then did some quick checkups on internet, and some people are like, no, never swizzle. And other people are like, it's okay. So, and then I remembered a talk from Peter Steinberger. He swizzles everything. And I actually asked him, like, aren't you afraid to swizzle all the methods and stuff? And he was like, whenever it breaks, we just fix it again, it's fine. And meanwhile, we sell the library like for money. So this is what our business is all about. So sure, it's okay. And so that's what I did. So whenever you change a property on a layer like this, layer corner radius equals 50, then thanks to all the swizzles, I will just jump in and actually create an animation on that property to reflect what you want to do. Just a quick, very, very quick demo of this, just to make sure that you believe me when I say this. All right, there it is. So this is a really quick example. Maybe it's going to take 5 minutes or so. All right, here it is. So there's a login form of sorts, and there's a button and below the text fields. And when I click it, nothing really happens, just a little flash or so, which is the default one. And what I want to have is add an animation to the button. And I'm going to do just that. Real quick, not even going to live code, just paste pieces like this. So this is the method that happens when you click on the button. So I'm going to have an animate with duration here. And first, I'm going to add a view animation to that so that we just check that everything works fine. I will change the transform, so it will scale down and rotate the button together, which is what UIKit does by default, right? So we're changing a property on the view itself. So it's okay, let me move it around so you can have a look at the code. And now it will just scale down and rotate a little bit like this. Yeah, which is great. So this is how UIKit normally works. Yep, there it is. Perfect. But so what my library does is, this is actually a swizzled method. It's not the original method. And it will keep track of all the properties I change on layers and actually create animations for me. So let's do just that. Here I have 2 layer animations like so. So in here, in this piece of code, I'm going to do exactly what I do to views. Just change the border width and change the corner radius. And yep, there it is. So this normally doesn't work, but right now it will. There it is. So it changed the corner radius to this view. So it animated into a square, and it also increased the border width to make it more like it looks like etched a little bit, like a cutout. And I'm going somewhere with this, but you'll see later on. So this kind of works. And at first sight it looks like I know it's my library, but it almost looks like magic, right? Because you've never done this before. And whenever you read about animations, you will be told you cannot do this. You can do the above, but this you can't do. For this, you gotta go to the long version, layers and fill modes and crazy things. All right, so it wasn't easy to code this, but it wasn't amazingly hard either. So it was great experience in the end, because I did it. So I can't say that like halfway through I wasn't close to desperate, but in the end it's working. So it's actually pretty good. So here are two important things that helped me achieve the first step. First, I didn't discard everything that was not pure Swift. I actually used the runtime and what UIKit already offered me, because I'm writing an iOS library, so it only makes sense to do this. And I mean, let's be honest, they're still fixing iCloud, which was introduced in iOS 5, so I don't think they're going to rewrite UIKit in Swift anytime soon. So I prefer to ship an awesome library right now, and when they rewrite iOS and UIKit in Swift down the road, maybe 2020, then I'm gonna worry about this at this time. But right now, it's saving me time. It allows me to experiment and have fun, so it's great. And second, use the Objective-C runtime because there was no Swift classes involved in this whole library at all. Okay, there are some structs that I'm using, but I'm not working with any Swift classes because UIView is an Objective-C class because it comes from UIKit. And CALayer is an Objective-C class because it comes from, where does it come from? Yeah, probably. Core animation is a framework per se. It's like it's spread around everywhere, like the air and like the. Well, what was this called? The whatever gave you the force. Yeah. Okay. Probably. It's like the force. It's everywhere. So yeah. But it's still part of what comes with iOS, and everything there is written in Objective-C. So it really made sense that to make things that NS Objects makes possible, and to make use of things that the Objective-C runtime makes possible. And actually from all because UIKit does a lot of things for you. It sets up all this view hierarchy, has all the layers, back them up, and they are all having delegates, and all of this structure gives you an opportunity to jump into different places and customize things in many great ways. So I did this, and I really liked the outcome. So second point is easier animation sequences, which is this was my ideal idea about this. Have the possibility to just say UIView.animate with duration, and then when this is finished, just type a dot and then just chain another animation to it. So I tried really hard to do that. I tried for so long to do that. I nearly, busted a vein here on my forehead, but it was just not possible. So this is one time that UIKit stabbed back me in the Objective-C runtime, stabbed me back and everything. So it was not really possible. And therefore, I took a different approach, still making the most out of UIKit. So this was my ideal pseudocode that I had in mind, and this is what it actually looks like with easy animations to do sequences. Now, I have a helpful hint. Yes. So I actually added the method on UIView called animate and chain with duration. And actually, in the end, I really started to like it better than just using animate with duration, because when you type UIV.animate, then the autocompletion just gives you all the animate methods, right? And so it really helps you visually to see animate with duration and animate and chain with duration, and that gives you the idea that you want to start an animation sequence. So how I used UIKit in this example is that I stepped on a pattern that I have established for me. So I didn't have to teach people anything. I could just reuse the method name pattern that they established, and people would just feel naturally attracted to give it a try, maybe or so. So, because one of the ideas behind this library was to have basically zero barrier for adoption. People would not have to learn any new APIs or so. There's many animation libraries that just force you into a totally different pattern of creating an object, then calling a method on this object to establish a sequence, then call a method on this thing to set the timing and so forth. And I just didn't really want to change anything in the workflow of people, but just naturally fit into their day-to-day coding routine. So animate and chain with duration, actually in the end I loved it. And actually it allows you to just then type a dot afterwards and just continue with animate with duration, do another dot, again animate with duration and so forth. And yeah, and actually this fit very well thanks to what UIKit already had there for me. And and actually the interesting thing about this is that animate and chain with duration returns a custom class that I created. But it also has, like this custom class that I created has animate with duration on it. So it's a different animate with duration that you're calling right now, but it behaves in exactly the same way as the built-in one. And so the point of this is that I leveraged everything that UIKit has done without actually reusing it. So it was really good for my library because it just fits naturally into what people already have as a code. All right, so a very quick demo to this. I'm addicted to live coding. I'm sorry, I really like it. Ride the adrenaline wave and everything. All right, so I'm just going to show you how this works. So here we have an animate with duration for my button, and I'm just going to say and chain. And since it takes exactly the same parameter list, that's the complete change that I have to do, just add and chain. And now this one returns an object that I can call methods on. So this is exactly what I'm going to do. Okay, so not here, here. Okay. All right, so this will then allow me to have a different animation that just executes after the first one. Really easy. I'm going to just copy the whole thing here, like so. And the second animation is really similar to the first one. It basically does the opposite of what the first one does. So this one rotates the button a little bit and makes it a square, and gives it a little bit of border, and animates the radius. And then this one, the second one, just undoes that, rotates it back to where it was, resets the width, and so forth. And there it is, compiles, and if we run it, then we will see this here. Huh. Okay, that was cool. One more time, I really love it. Okay, so 1 second. It's really cool because, it's your code looks just like mostly like before, but it does something completely different. Because if any of you has tried to create a sequence of animations like 3, 4, 5 or more, the Pyramid of Doom, and with layer animations it's just nightmare because then you have to use delegates for that, and it gets crazy. If you want to chain like 4 or 5 animations, it's just out of this world. While this allows you to then chain them, and also from each animation in the sequence, you can just animate layers and views at the same time. And and you can also just put in something here in the completion, and it will just work. So something that is also, you need to use delegates for it with layer animations. Let me put in here. Okay, so when this animation is completed, maybe I want the my button to be like half transparent to show that something's going on. And there it is. So the completion of the first animation will be nil, and the completion of the second one will be setting alpha to 0.5. And there it is. So, Easy Animation takes care of this, and it perfectly fits in your syntax. Okay, so I was pretty happy at this time. And I guess what the essence of this part of the talk is that I didn't really use UIKit classes or the runtime or so, but I just used the patterns they established and how things work together. And that gave me like this competitive edge over other libraries that need you to adopt a totally different workflow than you had so far. And the last point that I had on my piece of paper was layer spring animations, which is something we didn't have in iOS 8, and we do have in iOS 9. But, well, not everyone can write apps that are only compatible with the latest iOS. So what Easy Animation does is actually, behind the scenes, whenever you call UI view animate with duration for a spring animation, if you do any layer animations, we'll use the built-in API in iOS 9, and in any earlier iOS, it will actually use a custom open source Swift library to emulate a spring animation, just like the one that the UIKit gives you. So for my last point, I didn't reuse all the UIKit structure or the runtime or anything like that. I didn't reuse the patterns, whatever. I actually used one of the classes that is already there, but like just filled the gap that gives you the compatibility with earlier iOSs, which Apple just doesn't really give you, which I thought was very good for people who are looking to support earlier versions. Now, I don't want to give you the impression that I hate Swift. On the contrary, I love Swift. I'm just saying that if all these things are already in there in iOS, you got to make use of them. Otherwise, it doesn't really make sense. If you're writing a server framework in Swift, it totally does make sense not to use the Objective-C runtime, because you're anyways not going to run on your iPhone. But if you're going to run on your iPhone, then sure, why not? And so I'm not saying that UIKit is perfect. Oh my God, no, my God, no. I had so many problems with what UIKit was doing to me. Things like they will fire the completion block of the animation absolutely off time sometimes. They will fire many animations that don't really change any property or any view on any layer for some secret reason. I don't know. I mean, I'm not really into disassembling, so I didn't really look so deep, but they do crazy stuff in there. I had to learn about spring animation, like how they work, which I had some details on, but that actually is what taught me how they work. So it was very, very interesting. There were many problems, but in the end, I feel like I won, because I had a problem and I felt like other people have even bigger problem with it, because I was focusing on animation and I already was annoyed by experimenting with layers. And I can imagine the people that don't know everything about layer animations, how they would feel with it. So I feel like Apple didn't give me something that I really wanted, and I gave it not only to myself, but also to everyone else to use. So I felt pretty good. And I also, was able to extract all these points that I just gave you right now about UIKit and Objective-C runtime and how to leverage patterns that are established in there and so forth. So I hope that was useful. I hope that if you are writing a library for iOS, then you will make all the decisions and all the design decisions in that context. If you're writing for the server, make the decisions in that context. If you're writing a multi-platform framework that it has to do with UI, how would you do that, really? So, make all the right decisions and everything will be fine in the end, I hope. So thank you very much. My name is Marin. I work for Realm and I'm on the Rönnqvist team. These are my contact details. Thank you.